It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth, president and founder of Secure Estate Management. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Just wanted to kind of share some special holiday cheer during the holiday season. And I've been having a bit of a dilemma because I knew these shows would be airing during the Christmas season. And, thought, how do you tie money with Christmas? And I got thinking about it, and really Christmas is, has a lot to do about relationships. A lot of families and friends get together during that time of year to celebrate together and such. I know that's not everyone's. It's a sad part of the year for some people, but it's about relationships. I think most people would agree. And I got to thinking about how money affects relationships, and it turns out to be very significant aspects of money that affect relationships, both in good and bad ways. And I got to thinking about what could I do to kind of share some of these things from some of the experiences that I've had over the 20 plus years as a financial advisor, working with lots of different people, every stripe, walk of life you can think of, couples, singles, businesses, you name it. And I decided the best thing I could do is bring in a very special guest of mine. This is part of the People in Excellence, as we call it. Had the opportunity to interview some great people in the past, John Burley and Ron Compton and Vimal Patel. I highly encourage you to go to the yourpersonalbank.com or the Your Personal Bank app and go back and listen to some of those previous shows on some of those previous interviews. And, our goal here is to bring, as I said, people of excellence, whatever that area is, whatever that stripe, walk of life that may be, to the show to share, their different experiences and how they came to realize your personal bank is something that's part of their life that could make a difference. And so I have invited my wife, Dawn. So, sweetheart, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And she wasn't particularly, it took a little bit of talking her into this. This is not her thing. But the reason, it's not just that I invited my wife. That can sound a little patronizing. But the reality is, Dawn has a master's in social work, a bachelor's in psychology. She worked with a mental health hospital with children and teens.
I did.
She actually was the original member of the care unit with the Phoenix Fire Department.
Yes.
What was that, by the way?
That was basically a trial program that we started that was supposed to go around the country. And it was basically a mental health professional who teamed up with a paramedic to relieve the fire department. So any kind of stresses that we had, they would rely on us to calm the families down, or if there was an accident in the streets, we would be there helping the victim, whatever that needed to be done. There was also times that we went out on our own. We lived at the fire department, so that was quite the experience, and we had a different sound, so we knew it was us. And we would go, and a lot of times it was, going into homes and de-escalating a situation, or we would pick somebody up off the street and bring them to the hospital or bring them to a homeless shelter. So you just never knew what you were going to get. And it was just a new experience every time.
And I would imagine some of those situations were pretty intense. They
were. Some of them were kind of scary, but I always knew my partner had my back. So it was always him and I, and we would go out there and help as many people as we could.
That's awesome. And then, of course, you were a therapist for over 10 years.
Yeah, then I went and decided I was going to go into the comfy, cozy office and had people come to me, and I worked with families and couples and children, and I worked with the court system. The thing that I enjoyed doing the most was working with people with trauma, either present-day trauma or, past trauma, where I would create support groups to help people overcome those kind of things.
And you also worked in the school system.
I did. Right? I worked with kids in the elementary school system, and I also created support groups for that. So children of divorce was really my main focus there, and just social skills, self-esteem kind of things for kids in the elementary school.
So I think it would be fair, we could say you were quite the mental health professional.
Yes, I worked in hospitals also with kids, and that was where I first started, at the residential treatment centers.
And the reason some of you might be asking, well, this is a money show, why do you have a mental health professional coming on? Well, I think you're going to see where money and relationships and your counseling background, master's in psychology, social work, all those kinds of things, play into that.
Yes.
And also, when we first got married, you decided to take a break from your mental health career.
I did, and that was a really hard decision for me, but I decided to take a break and go on the road with you and help in that arena. And you'd be surprised how being a mental health professional really can help in any kind of financial situation. A lot of times I was the one that went in and kind of calmed down the wife when we were discussing financial things. So it was just a different arena.
Exactly. And in fact, I don't know, I was reading recently, it was kind of interesting. One of the newest certifications in the financial world happens to be financial counseling.
Yes, that is a new thing that just is coming up, and I think it's really important because financial planners just need to know how to communicate, because you need to understand that there's a lot of emotions involved when we're making financial decisions for our future.
Yeah, and it's kind of a running joke in our office with many of the agents. We talk about, seems like we're doing as much or more counseling as we are giving financial advice or product advice to people.
Definitely. I remember one situation we had where we had a woman that her husband had died, and the best thing was for what you were advising was the best thing for her, but because she was tied up in her husband's death, there was a lot of emotions involved. And I remember just spending probably half an hour first just doing some grief counseling with her.
I do remember that one. In fact, I was to the point where I was making a recommendation, repositioning some funds, and she literally just she broke down into tears.
And I remember you packed up your stuff and just were headed out the door, and I said, let me just talk to her for a little bit.
Right. I apologized for upsetting her, and what ultimately came out, I remember she had some stocks, and her husband had said to her, never sell these.
Yes.
Basically on his deathbed, right?
Yes.
And interestingly, the sad part of it, the situation was we had information that I was able to share with her that particular company was filing for bankruptcy.
And it turned out to be the best thing she ever did.
Yeah, correct. So it really, that's a point that illustrates where an emotional situation was overriding any logical decision-making.
Exactly.
So one of the things I wanted to share today. So you get an idea of, of course, Dawn's a very strong mental health professional background. Has worked with me with a number of clients.
I have.
Over the last 15 plus years now. And she's seen a lot of these situations. There are times where we work as a team. And I'll say to her, hey, I've got a client that I want you to meet. I think it'd be beneficial. And we bring her in with me. And particularly a lot of these female entrepreneurs, for example.
Yes.
One of the studies read recently talks about something like a vast majority, something like 80% or so, of female entrepreneurs, business people and whatnot, would prefer to work with a female financial advisor. Most don't, because unfortunately in our industry, there's just a lack of qualified female financial advisors. There's a real shortage of them, which is sad. And so in those situations, I a lot of times bring Dawn in. And I remember one not too long ago where I think 2/3 of the meeting was you and her talking.
Yes, it was just basically a big counseling session.
Exactly. And I think you were able to give her some advice and help that was beneficial to her.
I hope so.
Exactly. So the other aspect that a lot of us know is there's a big difference in terms of how men and women view money and how they respond to money and how and one of the things, Dawn, you've shared with me over the years as we've worked together is how often people have baggage about money, sometimes even more impactful than, their baggage with relationships.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had couples come into my office and speak to me about wanting to get a divorce, and they would tell me everything about what was wrong with the other person, but money never came into it. And it took some digging, and eventually the bottom underlying issue was they were stressed out about money.
There you go. So in the next segment, we're going to talk about a little bit more about the differences of the way men and women view money and how you can address some of those differences and alleviate these issues. Because, hey, we all know, we've read these studies. The number one cause of divorce is about money.
It is.
And so few people talk about it. Where do you go to get advice, and how do you handle it, and how do you deal with it? We're going to discuss that in the next segment. Contact us for more information at yourpersonalbank.com or download the Your Personal Bank app on your phone. or computer or, well, edit that, please.
For more information on your personal bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I just want to welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Your Personal Bank Show. We have a very special guest, my wife, Dawn, who happens to be a mental health professional. She's got her master's degree in social work, a bachelor's in psychology. Has worked with mental health in a number of different areas, over well over a decade of experience, significant experience, and has worked with me, working with clients in the financial world over the last 15 plus years. So welcome, Dawn.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And it took some doing to get her to join us. So you guys want to enjoy what she has to say. We're talking about money and relationships, which is relationships are an important part of the holiday season. That's why I felt that the tie-in, this will be a good time to share this. And also, we just touched on, divorce, number one cause of divorce, study after study shows, has to do with money issues.
That's true. And
really, the money issues are more about disagreements about those, correct?
Yes.
So basically, and as Donna shared with me, as I stated in the last segment, the baggage that a lot of people carry with them into their relationships comes from various sources, how they grew up, how their parents taught them about money and things like that. How does a couple, let's say they have very different ideas about how the money should be spent or invested or whatever, how would you recommend that couple go about addressing that?
Well, first I would say it's really important to communicate. So I'm going to say this to you, all the wives out there, all the females out there, even if you're not a wife, it's so important that you share how you're feeling about whatever decisions being made in regards to your financial future. Because it doesn't just affect your partner, it affects you too, and it affects your kids.
What would you say, Don, to, I run into this quite often too. I'll have a couple and they're interested in looking at the personal bank concept, or just the husband and typically wants to talk to me about my financial issues. And I've come to learn, if they are married, I want, or, if there's a significant partner, I want them the partner to be involved. And, for various reasons, the other partner's, and typically, it's most commonly the wife, is reluctant or doesn't want to be involved. I understand some of the psychology behind it of why this is the case, but what could you say to the guy, the husband typically, who his wife is basically checked out, if you will?
Again, it goes back to communication, but I'm going to speak to the husbands now, and I'm speaking as a female. It's really important that you listen to your wives or your partner about how they're feeling about what you're about to do. It's important that you as a team decide together. If your wife or your partner feels like this might not be the best option of whatever you're deciding to do, you need to listen. You need to hear what she's saying. And wives, you need to verbalize what you're feeling.
So I get what you're saying, but I run into a lot of times, I think what it comes down to is, as a guy, I can tell you is, we get our ego, we get ideas of what we want to do and what we want to accomplish. But
it's important for you to realize you're a team. It's not just you. It's you together as a unit. And it's important for you to decide the decisions together. Wives, you need to be involved. You need to not let just then everything be decided for you, because it does affect your future. And again, it affects your kids' future. And if you don't have kids now, it will still affect your future, because when bad decisions are made financially, and I'm speaking from experience now, it can take 10, 11, 12 years to get out of that. So it's affecting you all the way through. It not only affects you emotionally, it affects you physically. I know that, and again, speaking from experience, we made some financial decisions we shouldn't have made.
Yep.
And I had a feeling about it, and I shared it. And at that time in our lives, my husband didn't always listen to me.
That's true.
And so I had this feeling that maybe this wasn't a good idea of what we were doing, but he would speak to me logically, and I'm also logical. And if you give me the facts and I go, okay, all right, maybe you're right. Maybe we should do this. Well, I'm going to tell you guys that women have an intuition. And when you get that gut feeling, women, and you get that feeling of says, don't do this, don't do it, because it will save you so much hardship. Well, we did so many things and got ourselves in so many financial situations. And now today, if either one of us says, you know what, that just doesn't feel right, then we just don't do it.
Right. We've learned from our mistakes.
Yes,
so to speak.
we have.
The thing is, and guys, listen to what she's saying. I struggled with this, like she stated before. We were doing some investments, and what she's referring to, a specific example. There was many, but, a particular house we were building and investing in. And
yes,
she shared with me that she just didn't feel right, felt like we should share it. Well, at the time, the number made no sense. Logically, the numbers we were even, if anything, things went bad, we were going to be fine. And I was able to logically, it wasn't that we had an argument, we had a discussion. I showed her the numbers, I explained it to her how it worked. And, I basically convinced her that, and she acquiesced and went along with it. And of course, it turned out to be one of the worst financial decisions we ever made. What I've come to, and my struggle was, as a guy thinking logically, was I would say to her, why? Why do you feel bad about this?
And it's not important about the why, and that's something that we've learned, because I would say I don't know. Sometimes we just don't have the answers, but we just know in our heart of hearts that this is the wrong decision to make. Listen to that. Don't ask why. Just listen to that and go the opposite direction, and you will save yourself a lot of heartache.
I guess what I learned from that is that sixth sense, that women's intuition we've all heard about. That stuff is real.
It is.
And so instead of what I finally, after I stated, get bashed in the head enough times, you learn your lessons and realize that if we had taken the advice, her gut feeling, if you will, that's what I call it, or that intuition, it would have been so much better for us. So we've come to the decision, this was a number of years ago, that we discuss large financial, it's not like she needs to be involved in the day-to-day stuff, but the large decisions. Mm-hmm. And if either of us say, I just don't feel right about it, then it just doesn't happen. That's right. The end of the discussion.
Right.
And that's some of the advice I've given to couples over the years. It's been tremendous. It's benefited us tremendously. And Dawn, I know even early on after we had made that agreement, you even struggled with that a little bit.
I did.
Because we would be making a discussion. She would say, I just don't feel right about it. I said, okay. Mm-hmm. And then you would come back to me and start talking to me about it some more. I said, no, you don't feel right about it.
Right.
It's done. So you even struggled a little bit.
Right. It's that balance between logical and intuition that you have that feeling, that sense. And it's really just important to listen to that sense.
Yeah. So, and by the way, there's many studies, and I'm talking to the guys here. There's many studies out there that have shown that women are better investors than men. And the primary reason behind that is they're able to look at the whole picture.
The big picture. Mm-hmm.
Right. And guys tend to focus.
They have more of a narrow focus.
Right. And miss some of the things around them. The analogy I give is, hey, if you're a guy out there and you're an investor or business owner or you're making financial decisions, and you have a partner who, cares about you, about your future, you have a resource at your disposal that I find many guys don't really utilize. And it's important that you do to benefit you and your family in the long run, because you're doing this for the family in many cases, for the both of you. And the analogy I've used over the years that makes a lot of sense to guys in particular is if you go back in history and you think of the knight in shining armor. Before the days of gunpowder, the knight was the tank, and they would go into battle. And there wasn't much that could stop them, because they were impervious. They had one weakness, though. The armor was weak on their backside. So when they would charge into battle, they would have a squire. And the squire carried a long pole, and their job was to fend off anybody attacking them from behind. Folks, guys, your partner is your squire. She's got that long pole, and she's looking out for you behind your backside, your blind spots where you can't see, because she's got a bigger focus, a wider focus than you have. It's just, now I know we're generalizing here, but in general, the differences between men and women is the men have more of a narrow focus, more laser focused. Women have a big, wider focus. And she can see that incoming attack coming in from your blind side, and sometimes it's not logical, right?
Right.
It's just a feeling. It's a gut feeling or that intuition. Guys, that stuff's real. Listen to it. Utilize that. You have a tool at your disposal you're not using or not maximizing to its capability, your partner.
Now, I have to speak for the women here because I know women, you get scared sometimes, and it's important that you let your husbands know that as well, and that you guys talk together as a team.
The next segment, we're going to talk about a little bit more about how you can do that, communicating as a team to get a better end result. Contact us at yourpersonalbank.com or download the Your Personal Bank Your Personal Bank app for more information.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back to a very special edition of the Your Personal Bank Show. We're talking about relationships. And for the holiday season, felt like that was a good, how do you connect Christmas with money? Well, money affects relationships. So I have a very special guest with us, my wife, Dawn, she's got a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's in psychology. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we've been talking about, again, relationships and money, how it affects men, women, how they view money differently, and about how to address some of those disagreements. Because number one cause of divorce, as most of us know, is disagreements about money. And your recommendation was to communicate, right? Communication
is the key.
And talking about money in our society, by the way, it's what does they say? You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about...
It's kind of taboo, right? You don't want to talk about money.
Right. But gosh, that's one of those things that if you have a partner, that's what you share through life. And it makes a tremendous impact in terms of your lifestyle and what you can and can't do. And also, guys, statistically, and women, statistically, it's the woman, the wife, that's going to be around after you're gone still, right? So, this is something that impacts a couple for a lifetime. So this is tremendously important, tremendously valuable. You got to talk about money just like you got to talk about sex, right? It's important for any couple to do those things without that communication. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I just made her turn blush. So anyway, let's go on a little bit further. I think one of the things that we were kind of talking about, like you mentioned, communicating and discussing these things are so valuable in getting on the same page. And here's an example. I'm going to share a story of an example I run into very commonly when I'm working with couples, and money and talking about finances. A lot of times I'll talk about risk, market risk, and safety versus safety. And I'll see that there's a disagreement between the husband and the wife, and many times, or the partners, and many times they've been together for many, many years, even decades, and there's still a significant disagreement. So one of the things I've done over the years, often when I see that, is I'll ask both partners to take a piece of paper and write down what percentage of the money they think should be safe and what percentage they feel like should be at risk. And I had this one couple, a perfect example, and then show each other their numbers. And the husband had 75%, the wife had 25%. And the wife looked at her husband and said, you mean 75% safe? He said, no, 75% at risk. She goes, I was going to put 0, but I put 25 just to make you happy. And then an argument ensued. And, it started to get pretty heated, and I actually felt like a referee having to, what would you recommend in a situation like that where a couple... what could they do to address those issues to come to a more agreement that makes more sense?
Well, first I would say that women, the reason that you probably put that 20 or 25%, actually want to put 0 because I probably would have been the 0 also,
right.
Is because women need that. They're kind of like nesters. They need that safety. They want to know that they're provided for. They want to know their family's provided for. Men are more risk takers, more aggressive. They feel like, oh, I'm young, I can make it up. Well, there's consequences involved in both things. You make those decisions and you have You make those decisions, and there are consequences, bad and good. So what I would advise is that the couple listen to each other, again, communicate. Wife, share how you feel and why you feel that way. And men, listen and share how you feel and why you're feeling that way. And then come together as a team and compromise.
In fact, we ended up doing in that situation is I said to the husband, I said, I think reasonably speaking, we can agree that you're willing to take on more risk than your wife. That was obvious. And he, of course, agreed, and more than she's comfortable with. And in the same token, I said to her, I said, you're more safety focused than your husband. And probably, I said this to both of them, I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could say that you, sir, are probably too risk. You're willing to take on too much risk. And the wife, I said, ma'am, you are probably too security focused. So the reality for you as a couple, and this will be different for everybody, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. Is that fair? And they both agreed that made sense. And we ultimately came to a 50-50 solution for this particular couple. Because as I've stated this often, I'm a financial guy, talk about money a lot, but there's a lot of things in life that are more important than money.
Definitely.
And one of the things, in this case, this couple situation is, being in an agreement and acceptance and happiness about the money situation. So both parties were happy. And that was more important for this couple than how much was at risk. And so they decided to go that route. And it was funny going back and doing reviews later. It was fun meeting with this couple because, well, it made a dramatic difference in their lives to the better. So that was a fun thing to do. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about and share, Don, is something you've shared with me. As she alluded to, and I've shared the story. If you go back to yourpersonalbank.com, listen to, or the Your Personal Bank app, you can listen to the previous shows, and I share some of my background by how I got to where we are here, the experiences we had as a business owner, working on our 5th business now, chairman of the board of a bank, the ups and downs that some of those things had, even particularly in the years prior to having mentors and prior to having a personal bank, much more of a roller coaster. But something you said a couple of years ago, Don, that made sense to me and just really struck me, and I've shared many times, is, money doesn't make you happy, but it certainly reduces stress. Yeah,
money doesn't buy happiness, but it allows you to have experiences with your family. If you have money, you can go on vacation. And really, what is most important in your life? For me, it's being able to spend time with my family. It's the experiences that we have together with family and friends. And when you don't have that kind of stress, that financial pressure, you're able to go out and do all the fun things that you want to do.
Exactly. And so, I've shared this also in some of the previous shows, but it really struck me as a few years back, we were at a conference, and a gentleman, very successful, owned a financial agency for 40 plus years. He was getting recognized for a Lifetime Achievement Award. So now he was coming up on about 80 years old, had quite a very successful career. And one of the things he stated that really struck me was, he says, I've made a lot of money in my life. I've had a lot of success. I've made a lot of mistakes, lost a lot of money, all these different things. He goes, but, we're really looking back on it. The things that make an impact and make a difference, the things I remember are relationships and experiences.
Yes, and you know what? Money doesn't buy your health. And when you are stressed out about money, your health declines. You get more sick. You feel worse. You can't spend time with your kids. So when you're financially stable, or at least you have financial future set for yourself, you're able to just relax and enjoy those moments with your family. Enjoy those moments in life.
And I guess what this does, it kind of ties together the Your Personal Bank concept, because one of the things I run into with people all the time is, well, I can get a rate of return here better, or I can do this there, but those things involve risk. And I see these people, and frankly, from my perspective, they're pretty stressed out. And whether they're making money or not, they're still stressed out. And the reality is, having access to funds, knowing it's there no matter what, regardless of what the market does, Don't worry about tax situations. It doesn't matter. You have access to the funds. It just makes, at least, maybe not all of your money.
It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It truly is the best thing ever, to be able to just know that the money's there, to know that you can take care of your family, to know that if there's something you want in life, you can get that thing. It gives you a peace. There's a peace in life when you have that stability.
And how have you seen, we've been using our personal bank 6 or 7 years now.
I know. I wish I had known about it way sooner than that.
How have you seen that change my life, or our life in particular?
Well, for you, you're less stressed out. Your health is better. You've lost weight. Everything. You're just calmer. You're able to spend more time with the kids and me, and we're able to travel more.
And what is life about?
And life's about experiences and, being able to go. And for us, it's going to Europe for the summer and living and experiencing new cultures and meeting new people and tasting new cuisine and just having a great old time as a family.
Well, you're listening to a very special edition of the Your Personal Bank Show with special guest Don Toth, my wonderful partner. And next segment, we'll wrap this up with a few other thoughts. Contact us for more information at yourpersonalbank.com or download the Your Personal Bank app.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
We are rounding third, coming to our last segment, and welcome to a very special edition of the Your Personal Bank Show. It's we call them People of Excellence, and this is our money and relationships show with my very special partner and wife, Dawn Toth.
Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to join us, and I felt like for the holiday season, it was a great time to talk about relationships, money. Those are the things that are important. And if you didn't hear in the previous segments, not only is she a wonderful partner and supporter, you've heard the thing about, for every great man, behind every great man, there's a woman. I think there's a quote to that effect. I think it's more appropriate to say behind every, it's with every great man, beside him is a great woman. And I definitely have that in my case.
Thank you. You're a great partner, too.
Thank you, sweetheart. And not only is she a great partner and cheerleader, my greatest cheerleader and confidant, we work together as a team as needed. When we have folks that want to, meet with us, talk about financial situations, want that woman's perspective, I asked Dawn to join us on those kinds of meetings with clients, which turn out in most cases to be really awesome. And the clients the people just love it. She also has a master's in social work, a bachelor's in psychology. You've worked in the mental health field for
a lot of years.
Yeah, a lot of years. Lots of experience in that area. And we talked a lot about in the show about the difference about how men and women view money, how it affects relationships. I think the biggest message that you've kind of shared in this show, Dawn, is communicate. That is the biggest thing that you can do as a couple, is to communicate. Sit down for, 20 minutes, set aside some time together, the two of you. Sit down, talk to each other. Wives, share how you're feeling. Men, listen, and then verse it. Share how you're feeling, and women, listen. It's really important, because if you're not on the same page, then there's not going to be. If you're not on the same page, then you're going to be on opposite ends. And when you're on opposite ends, it causes friction in a marriage. And I can tell you, if you don't communicate about these things, then your marriage is going to have a lot of issues. And then you're going to wind up in my office talking about divorce, because you'll tell me it's everything besides the money, but the bottom line is, it's because you didn't communicate. It's because you didn't listen to each other. It's because you're irritated with each other. You're mad at yourselves because you didn't listen to your own intuition. And if you just set aside some time and just communicate what it is that you're wanting. What do you guys want for your future? Do you guys want to go travel? Do you want to be able to send your kids to college? Are you wanting to be able to pay for that wedding? There's so many things that your personal bank can allow you to do, and just take off that financial pressure. And guys, listen to her, because I know it's so easy to do. Is guys with the ego, I've got this covered. It's easier just to handle it and not have that interference, of your partner. Yet, if you don't take advantage of her intuition, her insight, that other viewpoint, then you're missing out on a tremendous asset that you have at your disposal. And study after study shows that women are better investors than men.
And women, you need to not be afraid of it. You need to go and be a part of these meetings when you sit down with your financial planner. Don't go off into the kitchen and go get drinks and snacks and all that kind of stuff. Sit down and be part of the team and understand what's happening, because it affects you. It's your future. It's your kids' future. It's your family's future. It's a family legacy that you're leaving.
That's powerful stuff. And, that's such a frustrating thing for me many times as a financial person trying to meet with a couple. And I'll guys, I'll make all the decisions, or I'll even talk to the wife. Well, I don't really want to be involved with it. He handles that kind of stuff.
A lot of times it's just because as women, we don't understand what you're talking about. I think it's really important for a financial planner or somebody who's talking about finances to sit down and speak in a layman's terms and not use the technical terms, so that we understand what's happening. A lot of times I'll see, especially when we were going together as a couple into these homes and meeting with these couples, a lot of times the husband would be just talking about things that were way over my head, because he understood it better than the wife did. And I would see the wife get very frustrated and say, you know what, I just don't get this. And then would just walk off. Or she would just shut down and not even participate anymore. And I think it's really important for a financial planner to say, hey, what do you think? What do you want? As a couple, you have to decide that together. It's not just the guy's decision.
Right. And that's something I've done in my career, is try to boil it down, keep it simple, so everybody understands, include the spouse, include the partner, whatever that may be.
Yes, I know for a fact that you will not meet with a couple unless it's a couple. So unless the wife is present, you just won't do the meeting.
And also, if I feel it's of benefit, I bring you into it. So those of you out there who have, you have that situation, or maybe you're single female and you want to talk to get that woman's perspective about money, well, here's an opportunity. Contact us at yourpersonalbank.com, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and talk to you about your situation, your business, money. We kind of have a unique combination of skill set and experience.
I'm kind of the psychology of the money.
Right. And I've got the business and financial background on that side of it. And we try to bring the two together when that's important to do so.
Yes.
And help those people, give them the advice, direction that they need.
Yeah, and that's not something that's offered in other teams, because it's really hard to understand the whole dynamics of what's going on emotionally with somebody when you're talking about money.
Yes, I remember early in my career, I would get frustrated because logically it made made sense for this person to make this decision or take this action. And I would get frustrated because they just wouldn't do it. And as you would state to me, well, you can't argue with
emotion.
Right.
Emotion's there's not right or wrong with emotion.
Right.
And a lot of times, you will recognize that somebody's showing you body language and not even verbalizing something. So those are things that are really important to look at, because when someone is crossing their arms, they're not even open to listening. And so you're just speaking and they're not hearing you.
Right. So I learned a lot of those things from you, of course, over the years. But again, it's helped me be a better communicator and helping people understand why something is, or why I feel, this is a better option for them. And as you've alluded to, and we talked about in the previous segments, it's not all about, I've talked about rate of return is important, but it's not the only thing.
Right.
Having funds, having access to funds, knowing it's there, knowing it's going to grow no matter what.
And knowing that you're creating a family legacy. I don't know about you, but that's really important to me, to know that my kids are going to be taken care of, that their kids are going to be taken care of, that their kids are going to be taken care of. It's just something that's going to just trickle down, and you'll know that your family is going to be okay.
And that's one of the awesome things about the personal bank concept. It's a tool that can be done in a tax-favored manner. It's how the wealthy operate with their money. We've come to learn. My only regret, and I was talking to a gentleman a day or two ago, wish I knew about this 10 or 15 years ago.
Much earlier, yes.
But thankfully, we learned about it 6 or 7 years ago and have started using it, shared it with our clients.
And it's changed our lives.
Yeah.
It's completely changed our lives.
In what way would you say?
Well, for one, like I've said before, it's created less stress in our family. We're able to enjoy life more. We're not so worried about how are we going to do this, how are we going to pay these bills, how are we going to pay the mortgage, none of that. And it's allowed us to go and have fun in summers and just take family vacations and not worry about how we're going to pay for it. We've had so many great experiences that we talk about every year. Our kids, we're creating memories with our children that, we'll be talking about forever. They'll be talking about this with their kids. And hopefully they'll continue it with their kids.
If you want to learn how to dramatically improve your financial future for you, your family, your business, contact us at yourpersonalbank.com. Love to sit down with you, share with you, learn about this personal bank concept, how it can work for you and your family. Learn something new. Take advantage of this opportunity to learn a new tool that can make that difference. Tune in every Tuesday at noon for the Your Personal Bank Show on 1510 AM or 105.3 FM, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Listen next week at noon for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com.
This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests on this program do not engage in rendering legal, accounting, or tax advice. Expert advice from a professional involving your specific situation should be sought, if required. Permanent life insurance is a long-term investment. Products, optional features, and riders may have limitations, restrictions, and additional charges and may not be available in all states. Withdrawals beyond principal may be taxable income. Excessive and unpaid loans may cause the policy to lapse. If a policy lapses, unpaid loans are treated as distributions for tax purposes. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be penalties and surrender charges when replacing coverage. New products may include new surrender charges and contestability period. Policy guarantees are based upon the claims-paying ability of issuing insurance company and do not apply to the investment performance or assets in the underlying variable portfolios. The life insurance and annuity products in this presentation are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and are not bank guaranteed.